Live. Okay, great. So, hi everyone. How's everyone doing? Hope you're enjoying your Saturday mornings. So we wanted to make sure to record today just so we can get out our predictions on what's going to be happening during the playoffs. The first game starts today. Super looking forward to the action that's going to happen today, and I'm looking forward to these playoffs. So we know that today is the 4-5-3-6 matchups to start off the playoffs. So I'm going to bring up the schedule. Do you have any quick thoughts thus far for at least how everything is paired out for today's matches?
Not really. Just like, I mean, the one thing is, I wish I did a little bit more analysis on the teams that I didn't know too much about. But otherwise, like, I was kind of focusing on, the teams I was already following, and well, also kind of specifically who I think is gonna go through to the end.
Okay. So we can do first round predictions quickly based on the 3-6-4-5 matchups because those are the ones we're very, very clear about, basically. It's going to be Milwaukee, Indiana's first game today, followed by LA, Denver, followed again by Detroit and New York. And wrapping up this evening's matches are Minnesota versus Los Angeles Lakers. So straight off the bat, my theory is even with Damian Lillard being out of this first round and out of the playoffs, I think Milwaukee has enough support and Giannis is a beast pretty much. I think that I get this a 5 game series 4-1, 6 games at most 4-2 to Milwaukee taking this one down. It should be a nice little series. I don't really know if I'm going to catch every match because, as I keep mentioning over and over, East is not really too. I'm not too excited about the East for the time being. But certainly of the matchups that I see going forward, perhaps this could be an exciting first round matchup in the East to pay attention to. I'm hoping health for everybody that's there now. And given health, I would presume that Milwaukee takes this. Probably, let me change my thing and say it's probably going to be a 6 game series, 4-2 to Milwaukee.
Yeah, so Indiana was one of the teams I haven't really been following, although I've been hearing in the news that they've been, especially after the All-Star break, they've been, gaining a lot of momentum. And I was following the Bucks kind of from the beginning a little bit. And so they're an interesting team to me because the way they started the year, I didn't think they gelled well as a team, not only well, chemistry wise, but then also just as the players on the team. So yeah, and then I kind of like stopped watching them for a little bit, but then coming after the All-Star break and after the trade deadline, I think I mentioned this in the previous episode was that they have now Kevin Porter Jr. and his chemistry with Giannis is pretty interesting. Like they it's kind of like they automatically just gel together on the court. But then if you look at also, the body language, the way they celebrate after some plays, they kind of do the same things. So like, it seems that they have chemistry on the court that's more than just basketball. And then what I liked, and we also mentioned this, we talked a little bit about this last time, was Giannis playing the point forward, which I think is a really dangerous position, for the opposing team, especially when, on the break, if they play good defense, even if Giannis grabs the rebound, like he's looking more now to kind of have the best shot or, attack on the basket rather than him just looking for his own shot. So I think that's a big development in Giannis's game, and I think it will help them, get over the Pacers. The one thing with the Pacers for me is that I always consider Pascal Siakam to be, the most important player on the team. So if they can stop him, and limit their turnovers, I think they have a good chance to beat the Pacers. Now, just based on the standings, I think it will go to 7 games, and that Milwaukee will pull an upset in Game 7 in Indiana.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're fairly closely matched. I like the fact that Indiana will at least have home court throughout this series. I think Indiana arenas can be quite loud. Traditionally, their fan base is great. I like the matchups in terms of having in turn matchup against Halliburton. I like Obi Toppin, but I think he's one of these guys who doesn't necessarily do well in big moments type games. I haven't watched many games this season to give concrete things about the Pacers team per se, but I think that they're good individual matchups, one-to-one player matchups that we can look forward to. And yeah, Pascal Siakam is going to be a difference maker for the Pacers. In principle, their team is a little bit more balanced, I guess, in terms of offensively balanced, and certainly their defense from top down should be quite efficient, I think, in these playoffs, let's say. I think they have more options on the Pacers team than Milwaukee does. However, I think that the way Milwaukee caters its offense in particular. And as you say, Kevin Porter and Giannis's chemistry on the court together is it's working out for the best. I think with the Bobby Portis return, etc., I think they should still do fairly well against the Pacers. I think the Pacers, the reason why I readjusted to say it'll probably be a 6 game series is because I recognize that the Pacers team is very balanced and it's quite the talent is well spread across all their players, with a few key um, players who can dictate, let's say, tempo and whatnot. They have punches, scoring punches inside and outside. So I give them hope. I give them a chance at beating Milwaukee overall. And I think it's probably just based on my own bias in saying that I prefer for Milwaukee to go through to see what they can do in future rounds because I think Indiana doesn't match up well against some of the other teams in the East going forward, and I'd rather see Milwaukee team match up against future teams going forward. So that definitely is a personal bias thing, I think, which is heavily influencing my decision to say Milwaukee in 6 over Indiana. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if Indiana takes this one. I agree. I don't think it's going to be a one team versus the other doing super well. So it's not going to be a sweep. I don't think it's going to be a 5 game series. I think a 6 game series, 7 game series sounds reasonable to me.
So yeah, I also have a little bit of a bias. I like watching Giannis play, and I'm not too big on Tyrese Halliburton, but just looking through the stats and everything, you might have a case for the Bucks in 6 because the Bucks actually have a 4-1 lead this season. The Pacers only won one game. Um, and then the other thing too is that I don't know exactly what the news is right now, but apparently Damian Lillard, Dame Dollar is off the blood clot thinning medication, so he could be back this round or even the next round. But if he is back this time, I think that could be a big X factor for Milwaukee taking it.
Okay, I certainly haven't heard that news. I understood that it was going to be a 3 month minimum sort of thing for the blood thinners. Perhaps he's trying to force the issue to get back into the court and playing. Certainly, I understand that the blood clot issue is no joke sort of thing. So, like, let's face it, it's taken players out of the league altogether in the past. And certainly with player management and medical care standards going further and further now, there's possibilities for stuff. I would err on the side of caution if I'm Milwaukee because they mean he's part of your future, and you don't want to risk something happening here in the playoffs that affects next year's team going forward. So I'd much prefer to see the two of them having an option to play full season, full playoffs together in a future year. I still think that both of them have 3, 4 good years to play, and if they can gel together and the chemistry is good, they have good chance to do good things in Milwaukee. Yes, they're still missing a piece or two to truly compete for championships, but that clearly can't happen this year. So I'd rather just see them do well as their matchup dictates in this year's playoffs, with the hope that next year those pieces come together and or they can bring in new pieces to help support and cater to what happens with them. Shall we move on now to basically the next game in the series? So the next games today will be LA Clippers Nuggets. This is going to be a full out brawl, I think. Um, you're clearly more of a Clippers fan than I, and I'm more of a Denver fan than you. So this is one matchup I'm really looking forward to, and I'm definitely gonna. I think I'm gonna watch every game. And this is a 6, 7 game series again. I wouldn't be mad if either team comes out of this matchup. I think both teams are solid, with very different play styles. I think LA may be a little bit of a faster team, more catering to an up and down game, where Denver thrives in the half court sets, etc. Denver's key to this whole thing is clearly Nikola Jokic and his health and his being the best player in the league right now. Again, I emphasize I think he's the best player in the world currently. I hope he gets this MVP because he's well deserving of it. I'm hoping the media bias is just a perceived media bias on the part of us as fans, rather than an actual media bias where they go ahead and give Shea Gilgeous the MVP this year. The Nuggets as a team, they're not as cohesive as I would like going into this final stretch and into the playoffs. Certainly, their letting go of their coach is going to be something to look out for, seeing how their coaching styles start to change up, if they make any key changes to lineups or strategies, etc. Murray and Jokic chemistry, Murray being a closer if he's in full health, etc. I can hope that he is performing as up to his bubble days performances, because he was definitely someone to watch in that lineup. And I think the addition of Aaron Gordon really helps their chances, if not of making the West, if not making the absolute finals against the East, making the Western Conference Finals. I really do see Denver having a real good chance in this year's playoffs if they are cohesive, if they're healthy, and if they play to a general strategy which allows Jokic and Murray to thrive in their matchups. LA Clippers are a formidable team, and I keep saying this. I think that Kawhi Leonard and Kawhi's his ability, his strength, his health, etc. If he's healthy, he's definitely one of the best players in the league, probably top five players in the league when healthy and motivated. So he's definitely a difference maker. Uh, I don't think they have the bench that Denver has, and that could hurt them. But I think they play well together, and judging from what I've seen in the last couple of weeks, I think they are definitely a dark horse team for me to also reach, if not the finals, the Western Conference Finals at least.
Yeah, so I'm a Clippers fan, and I think the complete opposite. But even more that I don't think Denver has a chance to beat the Clippers. Okay, right now they have the same record. They're both 50 and 32, and they split the season 2-2. However, after the All-Star break and the trade deadline, it's interesting because what happened after the All-Star break and what happened, all the trades that happened, even the small trades, and I think they said this was like, in league history, like the most amount of deals and trades that happened in the season. A lot of teams changed quite a bit. And the same thing happened for the Clippers. They initially I didn't like the trade, but I think it still provides some interesting matchups, especially when the starting five for the Clippers or when the rotations happen, because now they have Bogdanovich, who adds more shooting, on the offensive end. However, on the defensive end, he's a huge liability. Teams are the Denver Nuggets are for sure gonna, be attacking him any chance they have. And I think too that Nicholas Batum, unfortunately, he was having, like, I think the best game of his season. And then after that, I think something happened with his hamstring or his ankle. So he's been out, or I think his day to day, and he's a big piece that the Clippers definitely need in this playoff run. However, Ben Simmons, another addition that they got, can provide a little bit of that defense, and find the open person on the fast break, because he obviously, we know he doesn't tend to attack the basket in terms of scoring, but more so in terms of creating different opportunities. And then speaking on the Denver Nuggets, like you said, I think Jokic is definitely hands down the best player in the NBA right now. This season, like mentioned before, he's done things that, like, we could only imagine. We didn't even think it was possible, and he's done that. He's created different categories of stats and everything. So, and when someone does that, to me, that definitely means that they're the most valuable player on the team and the most valuable player in the league. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna give him the MVP, but So they are a threat mainly because of Jokic, and he just does things on the court that he sees things on the plays on the court that nobody can see, right? The amount of times I've had to rewind some of his plays and then just look at him like how he dishes the ball, how he runs the offense. It's quite impressive. However, the firing of Michael Malone is, to me, that's kind of like one of the biggest factors because you're losing a coach that you've won a championship with, and then now they're bringing David Edelman, who's only okay. I think they won the 3 games, but he's never coached he's never been a head coach in the playoffs. Whereas the Clippers have Ty Lue, and Ty Lue is one of the best coaches I think in the NBA right now. So that's another reason why I'd give them the edge. And then on top of that, just the starting five of the Clippers, like I said, I think this is the best starting five in the league. Just so based on talent and the coaching is why I have the Clippers beating the Denver Nuggets I'd say in 6 games. And let's also not forget that the Denver Nuggets, well, actually, I I'm not too, the season split. There was a season split, but Denver does, and they have the same record. But Denver does have a home court to start the playoffs, to start the series.
Yeah, the home court advantage for Denver is very, very real, and I think that that's an equalizing factor. Even if you do argue that Clippers are the better team, the team dynamic thing goes out of the window when you have to play at altitude, and so that's going to play a big role, I think, because you're dealing with a coast city versus a mountain city, and certainly I think at least in the first 2 games, as you say, the first 2 games are in Denver. That's going to play a role in some of the deciding things. So I would think that it's quite likely that Denver at least take. I think Denver they need to focus on winning those first 2 games. Whatever else happens in the series, those first 2 games are key because you can build up a sort of tolerance of high altitude after a while. And if they're just playing those 2 cities, let's say, the strategies, and then this is where the coaching thing that you mentioned comes in. Yeah, having a coach that's been in multiple playoffs situations and scenarios against multiple teams is going to be key for the Clippers. I don't know if one element balances off the other elements, so the coaching versus the altitude balancing equalizing each other out. But I think the altitude, the familiarity of the team in Denver, those things are pretty important. Just one thing to quickly touch on, we mentioned like the MVP race between Nikola Jokic and Shea Gilgeous. One of the things I find it very odd that nobody's mentioned, at least not in any of the podcasts or the media things that I've seen, is what are their records on and off the court when Nikola plays versus when he doesn't play, and when Shea Gilgeous plays versus when he doesn't play, percentage wise, because clearly while they both played the adequate number of games to secure options of getting postseason awards, etc. 60, I think it's 66, 67 games or whatever it is. I think Nikola Jokic played more games than Shea Gilgeous, but what was their records like percentage wise when they, as the leaders, the stars of the team, and the MVP candidates, when they weren't playing versus when they were? I'd be very keen to see those type of statistics because I give the edge still even in that category to Nikola Jokic. I don't think his team performs as well. They don't have a capable not ball handler, but distributor when Nikola is not playing. I'm glad you mentioned also Simmons' return, etc., because I don't see his liability on the offense is palpable. It's so notable. It's not funny that he doesn't even look at the rim. He will have basically fast break opportunities and he will turn around at the 3 point line and wait for people to catch up with him so that he can pass off the ball. It's very odd to see an NBA caliber player, which I think nobody can dispute, have such fear and such a notable fear of putting his head down and going to the basket to score points or even just taking open shots. I don't know that he's going to average more than 4 or 5 shots a game, and it's something to look out for. And certainly, if you're playing 4 on 5 or 5 on 4 on the offensive side of the ball, like it you really lean in heavily to what your defense can do on the other side. And I don't see that he has maintained the level of defensive capability as what he used to have in the past in Philadelphia. So I'm keen to see whether or not if he's just playing patsy to the league throughout the season, etc. I know he didn't play many games, but the games he did play, he's a shell of himself, or a shell of what we expect out of him, given where he was when he was early years in Philadelphia. Curious to know if you share the same thoughts.
That's a really interesting, I mean, that's a really good point that you bring up when we talk about Jokic versus SGA, and very relevant too. Like, I'm just trying to see if I can find I can't get the percentages, but I'm looking at the records. Let's see, without.
Yeah, it's just one of these things that I'm just going to look for these postseason awards and see where the media influence has. I just don't understand some of the times how voting goes, and I think honestly, like if the media influence is what we perceive it to be, and clear favorites for from a player's perspective are ignored in favor of a narrative which has been built since the beginning of the season or even since the All-Star break, if those are going to hold true. I think you have to ignore some of the narratives when there are clear reasons to move ahead. And I watched this podcast, I think it was Gil's Arena podcast, when they were mentioning why is Giannis being left out of the conversation with similar, if not better, stats than Shea Gilgeous. It's another one of these weird story-driven narrative things where you look at the situation and you see, okay, outside of the fact that his team has the best record in the league, are his on-court versus off-court statistics, do they hold up against the clear statistics of both Giannis and Joker? For me, the clear statistics of Giannis and Joker have to be taken into account. And if you want to play devil's advocate and say you have in Joker a supreme offensive player in terms of all-around performance, whereas his stats defensively, I can understand that argument. However, the team doesn't suffer defensively when Joker's on the court. You see what I mean? Like he's not someone that people are trying to exploit defensively when he's on the court. And so I'm curious to know what his defensive plus minus is versus the other two. Certainly, I think Giannis probably has a more well-rounded state of argument in terms of him playing both defense and offense at elite levels. In that regard, Shea Gilgeous shouldn't even be on the paper against Giannis. If you want to make the argument that Giannis is playing both offense and defense at elite levels, then Shea Gilgeous's only argument is that his record is better. And I agree with the structure that Gil proposed in saying that why are we having 8, 9, 10 different players? Why are media able to vote on basically every player for end of season awards when it's sort of clear cut by post All-Star break who the top 2, top 3 people would be? And if you do a staggered, like removing players from the eligibility list based on performance, based on statistics, team and personal, then you get a better criteria on which to follow and a more fair voting pattern, which eliminates some of the biases that might be created where, let's say, a media personality is not happy with the way a player has responded to a question. So I would more keen to see that being addressed in the off season and then seriously taking a look at how postseason awards are awarded and eliminating some of those factors that become biased. Even if, let's say, a media member is biased towards a certain player, doesn't want to vote for him, limit his options and then name and shame. I think people putting the names of who they voted for needs to be part of the responsibility as well. You're given the responsibility of voting and affecting a player's future because let's face it, awards go towards how much a player might earn in the coming years. Then the media has to have a responsibility and has to be visibly voting for who they are voting for. We need to know who the media is voting for. So we don't get situations where what would have been a unanimous decision gets disrupted by one media member who doesn't even have to show his face, basically.
Yeah, so the basically, yeah, the NBA league, they awarded or at least they gave you know, uh, the media pretty much all responsibility in terms of deciding who should be MVP and these individual awards. And they've left it, well, some of them, like, yeah, they'll put in specific rules like, okay, minimum 65 games or something like that. But then also they've just said like for some certain awards, like for the MVP, it's subjective. It's, you guys do whatever you want. So the NBA has relieved any responsibility for that. And it's a good thing that you mentioned the media. Actually, there was a point I wanted to, there's an interesting point that I wanted to, or at least actually serious for me that I wanted to bring up at the end of this episode. It has to do with the media. They've limited the media access in the NBA, which is part of a bigger problem, even going into human rights and all that type of stuff. But we can say that for another time. But basically, there's no more local broadcasting for the playoffs. Right. So we've lost quite a lot of information and diversity in that sense. But then coming back onto to the MVP talk, yeah, the media, I mean, they can create whatever stories they want, and they can decide. Like I forgot exactly who it was, but there were um several people in the media that had already decided at the beginning of the season that SGA is the MVP, right? And then even if you just, listen to them here and there, like throughout the season, and when they kind of mention it or the subject comes up, there's no real discussion, like you said, of Giannis and Jokic. Like to them, it's almost automatic that like, okay, from the beginning of the season, it's whoever has to catch up to SGA to win the MVP. I think Jokic did that. Like I even have had was thinking about Jokic as being the most improved player and the MVP, right? So I think he surpassed that. And then, what you said is also correct. Like a lot of times, when you hear these discussions, they rely on the team's record actually for in SGA's case. Now, at the end of the day, we can't, if they want to do that, they can do that, which is unfortunate. But yeah, if you just look at the games and everything, I do think that like, and another thing too was that, some players also they do support, this push for SGA to be MVP, like not to continue yeah, jumping onto Tyrese Halliburton, but he said that like in his day, it was the best player on the best team that won the MVP. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, last year the Boston Celtics were the they were the best team, and Tatum didn't get the MVP. So it's like you said, it's very it's quite confusing, and yeah, it's not. I don't think it's fair to the players as well because they know that these individual awards it does affect their income. We know a lot of players consider playing in the playing in the NBA is a job for them. So for them, it's just okay, how can I make the most money? They have no consideration about or care rather of winning or playing basketball as a sport like as we know it, which that's fair to them. They can do what they want, but it does affect their play as well. And as we've heard in some of these talks, the legacy and everything. And then when you mention, for instance, coming back to Nikola Jokic, like his defensive statistics, like I just quickly like try to bring them up. I don't know too much about the defensive box plus minus, but apparently he has a 2.96, which is one of the highest in the league apparently. So I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but for me, just like watching the games, just his big body presence, and like I said, like yeah, he is a maestro on the offensive end, but you can also see his communication on the defensive end as well. So I don't see any team trying to attack him, or I don't, and if there is any attack on him, maybe it's just to get him into foul trouble, which I've rarely seen. Now, granted, I don't watch too many Nuggets game, but that's not something that I've seen teams do. And then I think Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets without Nikola Jokic this season, they're 4-8, which is a 33% win percentage, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are 5-1, which is 83%. 83 winning percentage. And then also just coming back onto the team and everything, I've heard people say that SJ is really good on defense as well. Well, if you look at how and another point I want to make is that like so I was looking on NBA.com and looking at also kind of like the what they call it the MVP race, right? And and then, so they had the MVP and all the other awards. And then Coach of the Year, they also had Michael Daignault. Sorry, I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but like the head coach of the Oklahoma City, right? And okay, yes, he's a great coach. And when you look at how Oklahoma City plays, like they're very team oriented. They everything on offense, majority of the things on offense and defense is to do with the team. Now, where SJ gets the highlight is that he's very smooth when it comes to scoring the basket. You can't take that away from him, right? He knows how to maneuver his way into the lanes. He's very slithery. and he finishes pretty well, but then he can also finish tough shots. So that's just, yeah, some of the things, some of the points I wanted to make regarding uh the uh the MVP race. Oh yeah, and then one last thing was that, yeah, on the defensive end, right? I haven't seen him kind of like lock down a player one on one individually. He's very good at swiping, and they have long arms. But if you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder defense as a whole, the team, everybody has long arms. It's a very, like I said before, team oriented. So I don't know if we can really say that, he has, or at least for me, I haven't evaluated his defensive impact as much as, other people state in supporting his MVP candidacy. And then, well, I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit more on that, but the other thing I was gonna mention, or at least ask you with regards to the Denver Nuggets and the Clippers series was, who do you see like kind of like a little bit of an X factor, and would you think Russell Westbrook's role is going to be coming in this series for sorry, for the Nuggets to take it.
S- So, I'll address that last one first. So I think that's the simplest. It's good that they have two triple double threats on their team. It's absolutely positive, and provided he doesn't get too ahead of himself in terms of trying to score, and trying to take bad shots, because he has a propensity to take bad shots that are not in the flow of the offense. That said, he's a willing distributor. He's a very good counter to what Nikola does offensively. So, like I said, Nikola is a very half-court oriented player in terms of offense, where Russell Westbrook is a very good fast break, pace moving point guard offensively. So his open floor skills match really well with Nikola's half court skill set. So I think he's going to be a key contributor. And as I said, having two triple double threats on the floor really do work in their favor. And I think he this is why it's going to be a closer series than for many other series. I think it's going to be a close, well fought series, and I think it works. It's going to be the depth. This is why I said the depth of Denver really matters, and having the ability to sort of offset each other's minutes between Russell and Nikola makes a big difference in my opinion. And I think this is why I would give it to them. I would give it to Denver over the Clippers. In the discussion on I just wanted to follow up quickly on discussion on the MVP race and the winning percentage with and without Shea and Nicola. Did you say that the Oklahoma City Thunder have an 80% win rate without without Shea playing?
Yeah, this is on Stat Muse. Yeah, and it's from, so I guess he didn't play in 6 games. And yeah,
Yes.
I won
And they won
83%.
and they won 83% without him.
Yeah, that's the win
And
percentage. Yeah. They lost
and
one game
and
to Dallas.
so okay, so it's 5-1.
Yeah.
Okay, and Nicola on and off. What is
Okay.
it?
Just one point though with the Thunder. I'm looking at who they won it against, and they're all pretty
Yeah.
bad teams. They're all bad
List them
teams.
out. List them out. List them out. Let's hear them. Was he just taking time to rest?
Perhaps because it's all in 2025. So at Dallas they lost, versus
Okay.
Portland they won, Philadelphia they won, Suns they won, Jazz they won, Pelicans they won.
Okay, that's they're all bad teams, but again, I said yes, they're all bad teams, but it's still a pattern. I mean, even if they're bad teams, you win without the person who's scoring the most points on your team. You're winning without your MVP candidate. You're winning. You said they all happened in 2025.
Yeah, and they thrashed those teams, thrashed them.
Just say as I mean, we keep making the argument for OKC having a very balanced offense with one highlighting individual in Shea, who plays a lot like early years Jordan in terms of the number of shots he puts up, etc. It you can't play it both ways. So for me, if there's a highly balanced team and you win in the absence of your MVP, then how is he making himself exceptional based on records, etc. When you have another player whose on-off team statistics are significantly larger or better, his
Yeah,
on the court, yeah.
yeah, because he has a bigger playing field, 12 games, right?
Mhm.
And the Denver Nuggets, yeah, they're 33%.
Yeah, if you win 1 in 3 matches when your top player is not winning, is not playing, then it goes to show that your team goes as your MVP goes. Uh, and I think Nikola was the one that won it last year, yeah. So this would be a back to back if he gets it again.
Yeah, I think the last 3 years, right? Because he
No,
has
no, no,
three.
no. They gave it to Embiid one year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wait, hold on. Let me just.
They gave it to Embiid in 22, I want to say.
Okay. 'Cause he's three-time MVP. Well,
I think he
yeah,
got I think he got yeah, so he got 21, 22, missed 23 because they gave it to Embiid, and then they gave it to him last year in 24. And basically, this whole thing about trying to protect the records, protect the reputation, protect the older players like the Birds, the Magics, the Jordans, the whoever, like it's dumb. It's dumb. It's the same thing I was saying earlier about having to move Steph into top 10 of all time. Somebody's got to go out. There's no question about it. Either you're looking at the level of competition you're facing, your results as a player, your on-off statistics, your other things like your impact on the game, etc., etc. The team, I mean, life goes on, and bigger, better things do happen as you go forward. And so, for instance, it didn't take long for people to say, okay, Shaq is in the top 10 of players ever, if not the top 3 centers ever. Like, it didn't take long to realize his dominance and his impact on the game from a post position, from a center position. And it meant that people had to be kicked out, had to be moved aside, despite their statistics, because you have to look at time and place, what their records were like, and who they were playing against. So, in this instance, Nikola Jokic is demonstrating a level of consistency across the board and improving every year. I don't agree with what you said earlier about giving him a most improved player because he almost averaged a triple double last year when he was an MVP. Because he managed to make a triple double this year doesn't make it such a significant step over other candidates. So on that, I disagree. However, I do think that if your level of excellence is miles ahead of everyone that's around you, you have to recognize that. And I disagree with Halliburton's statement also about back in his day, it was the best player on the best team. In which year exactly? You might make that argument, but then you have to look at the years in which it was true. And it just happened to be coincidental that the best player in the league, undeniably, was on the best team. So
exactly. I mean, like last year, Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, he didn't win. As you said, he didn't win.
Yeah,
But was he
exactly.
the best? But I don't think he was the best player in the league last year.
But
Yeah,
on
no,
the
no.
on the
Okay, to the argument,
yeah,
to the
yeah,
argument,
yeah,
he was the best player on the best team. He
yeah.
didn't win, but he wasn't the best player in the league.
No, yeah.
So it didn't make sense for him to win it that year. Nikola Jokic won it because he was the best player in the league. Yes, his team wasn't the top one, but it was top three. I mean, the argument can. I'll go to the argument again. Why maybe you want to consider not giving it to him again this year because his team isn't in fact, no, it's a top three again. So it's a moot argument, and I think let's go back through those MVP years and see where Burton got that belief from, because it can't be. I can go back many years, and it's just not the case, unless it's coincidentally so. Uh, the NBA.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's definitely not the case because like, and the thing is, that's what I mean. Like some of these players and media analysts, they just go to any argument they can to support, in my opinion, to support SGA's case. So even if the argument either makes no sense or there's nothing to back it up, for them it doesn't matter because they already know that like, well, we're just gonna say whatever we can in support of SGA's MVP race.
Correct. You can look at, okay, you might say highest scoring thing as being a rationale for choosing an MVP over another MVP candidate, which is the case that you would have said, okay, Shea deserved it last year and not Nikola Jokic. But averaging a triple double as a big man is in itself a marveling achievement, you know? A near triple double in itself, a marveling achievement and a top three team. So yeah, I still would have given it to Nikola last year as well, because overall Shea Gilgeous is a scorer. That's his argument. He's a scorer with a balanced defense. Uh, we looked at this last week. We looked at this in our previous episode, basically. Nikola Jokic is, I was saying plus minus on the defensive end, but actually it's clear that he's not a defensive liability in any way, stretch, or form. And actually, he's a good defensive player because he's the top player in his statistics are top in defensive categories, and uh, rebounding and steals. It's sort of laughable that people will have arguments against this stuff. When rebounds per game, he's third, and steals per game, where's steals again? Okay, he's second. Steals per game as a center, you average the second most steals in the league of 450 plus people. It's just laughable. And Shea Gilgeous doesn't belong on this. I mean, he's what fifth on the. I mean, he's tied for fourth on the league in the steals category, but in rebounds, he's not even on the list. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a narrative type of thing. So, and the media, that's, I don't know why they're doing it, but that's the journalism we're in these days.
Yeah. Shall we move on quickly to Detroit and New York? For me, I want New York to win this, and clearly they're the better seeded game, better seated um, team. Uh, I think New York can pull this off. I do think Detroit poses a threat. I do not think this is a sweep by any means or shape. I think coaching is gonna come down to coaching a lot of the way. I think that Detroit has a bigger team, but I do think that New York should, presuming help, pull this out in 6 games at the most. But again, if it goes longer, it's in Detroit's favor. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, well, do you have wait, you didn't say how many games you think New York is going to win, or
I
you
think I
should
think
mention?
it's in 5, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's in 6. But I think Detroit has a better chance of winning if the series is longer.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think this it could potentially go seven game series. And if it does go six, also because I'm a Pistons fan, I gotta say Pistons are gonna beat the New York. And like even just watching, the last matchup that they had, and I think they won in Madison Square Garden. One thing I like about the Pistons is their defense. They have very good defensive tenacity. Now, Jalen Duren and Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart, I think they're going to give Carl Anthony Towns a lot of trouble. I think they're going to try and, really attack him and make him work for every points that he's going to, try to initiate. And then you have Asar Thompson, who's a really great wing defender. He's kind of like his twin, they're both very long as well. And I think he can guard. He's one of these players where, like, they can literally guard 1 to 5. So he will have no trouble, keeping up and staying with Jalen Brunson. Although we do know Jalen Brunson, he can hit those damn near impossible shots like anytime. Like he goes into the lane and you're like, what is he doing? And he shoots like with a high arc, so avoiding the defender, trying to block him, and then it goes in most of the times. So that's the thing that worries me. But then when they do try to play maybe some pick and roll, either with maybe even Carl Anthony Towns, like we know he likes to do the high pick and roll, so that he can also he can switch around to hit the 3-point shot from the top. And then I think also they do some pick and rolls on the side too. Now the thing with the defense of the Detroit is that they have this individual defensive focus where they really cling on to the player that's running the pick and roll. So they don't do drop coverage as often as you see other teams do. And one other player that I think is also key for Detroit is Dennis Schroeder, and he does that really well. He keeps with the offensive player. And I think based on the defense and Cade Cunningham, there's just something about him where, like, so they're the bad boys, they're the underdogs, and I think that's the perfect role for Cade Cunningham. He's going to, I think, turn it up in another gear, maybe prove something to, the people that, like, those who think that Detroit is not legit. So I'd watch out for him too, and I think that's the reason why the Pistons are gonna take the Knicks in 6 or 7.
I think they have a lot of real heart in Detroit. I think they're a bigger team, defensively minded. Yes, sure. I think they're too young at this point. I think their youth might help them in a long series. It does come down to coaching strategies. As we keep saying year on year, this whole thing about playing players 40 plus minutes, I've already given the rundown of how many minutes I think players should play. New York to me is, yes, I have my own personal biases and stuff like this, but I'm also looking at their record in this instance, and I think while Detroit does play a matchup problem for them, I think overall experience and the skill level of individual players together with the bench, which is available to New York, will see them through. The reasons why I say a longer series goes in Detroit's favor is because a longer series goes to not just their youth that Detroit has, but the tendency of the coaching to overplay players. So and the susceptibility those the players then have to either fatigue or injury. So those things matter in the NBA. I think because it's the first round, it shouldn't be too problematic. We've seen New York survive even through injuries in first round of series before. Certainly, the coaching identity, this strategies um, exist, and we have a tried and tested coach who knows strategy quite well. Plus, we have a team of players, a core of players who play well together, I should say, on New York side. I think the youth and eagerness of Detroit um, will help them win a game or two. But I lean further to New York because I guess I'm a fan and I want to see what they do in future rounds because I also have a possibility of them going to the Eastern Conference Finals, where if they're allowed to use their depth, they have a good. It will be a competitive Eastern Conference Finals, I think, because I think that matchup would be worth watching, and could be in their favor.
Yeah, and that's true. What you and yeah, for the I should try and see how I can drop like a link or something. But we should say that like in episode 3 or 4, yeah, in episode 3 we went deep into the minutes played by the Knicks starting five, and they're probably gonna play what like maybe 7, 8 players, and so
I
maybe
think
that's
seven.
also seven, and
Yeah,
then
seven.
so, and yeah, right. And I think that's worrying if you're going to face a youthful team who plays a lot of defense, right? I think a youthful team on the open court maybe would be less dangerous, but I think in the playoffs, a youthful team who excels on defense, I think I'd want to favor a little bit more the Pistons in that end. And then, oh, and just real quick, like, because it was in my notes. I was going to mention something about speaking on defense, like just coming back to the previous discussion we had on the Clippers Nuggets. Now, the Clippers defense is one of the best in the league, in my opinion. And I think that will really limit kind of maybe not Jokic himself, but like the other players on the floor. So, for instance, like Dunn, he locks down on the point guard. I think he's going to lock down Murray and do his best on Westbrook. And then also Kawhi with the Clippers, they play a lot with their hands, right? They're very active with their hands. They have length, and then with Kawhi's claws, his huge hands, and just his kind of awareness on where the ball goes and everything. I think that gives the Clippers an edge when it comes to defense. And then so yeah, what you say about this Knicks Pistons series, I think that's where the youth will come in handy.
Yeah, I wanted to sort of say if this is a second round matchup between New York and Detroit, I would probably give Detroit a better odds against beating New York. And so this is why I think New York has a better chance here in this first round, is because they're going to be fresher. They will have waited a little bit for the things they can get their selves together. They can get back into any of the small minor bruises and bumps sort of thing. They can get the treatment on. They get a little bit of rest. They have a little bit of time to prepare. They've known it was going to be Detroit for a little while now. Um, they can game plan a little bit easier. This first round, this being the first round, I think, everything else being equal, New York has a better chance against Detroit. I do agree, and I see your points for Detroit being the younger team. And being more motivated, and for coaching styles, how coaching styles are going to influence results, especially, and I've said it already. Basically, the longer this series runs, the better chance Detroit has. However, I think New York should be motivated to get this done as quickly as possible, so that they can do the same thing and rest up a little bit for the second round. Just to touch base quickly on the whole Denver Clippers thing. If Michael Porter Jr. contributes, and I'm talking close to 20 and 28 and 3, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists or better consistently in these playoffs, not just this first round, but in these playoffs, then Denver is a formidable force, because you can almost guarantee that Nicola's going to show up. You can almost guarantee that Westbrook is going to contribute, whether that's in points, assists, rebounds, leadership on and off the bench. Murray doesn't run away from highlight moments. He's confident and consistent when healthy. Okay. So I'm pretty confident with Murray as well. And then the other team members, team players tend to follow the lead of those guys. Aaron Gordon, he's playing super well these days, these last few games. He's shooting really well from deep, and he's a very strong post player, in paint player, I should say, rather than post. I think, given those things, Christian Braun coming off the bench and knocking down threes, I think those things remaining together, they are a very strong contender for the West, and I think they should do well. I like that matchup against the Clippers, and I look forward to seeing that through. It'll be very interesting. That said, I still think I have Denver in 6 or 7. If it's a shorter series, it works in the Clippers. I'll do the same thing I did basically for New York and Detroit, and say if it's a shorter series, the Clippers have a better chance. But if it's a longer series, Denver has a better chance. Uh, that's not to say Denver couldn't wrap it up early as well, but I think it's more likely to be a 6, 7 game series than it is a 4 or 5 game series, for that matchup. And for the New York Detroit matchup, it can go anywhere from 4 to 7. I think it's unlikely to be a 4 game, because I think Detroit is a good enough team to get a game, if not two, against New York, and it's a closer matchup than it may appear on paper and than their seeding shows. Shall we move on? Any other wrap up thoughts?
Not really. Just I think maybe if I didn't mention, so yeah, or yeah, let me repeat. So I have Clippers in 5, and then Pistons were Pistons in 6. And wait, so and let me just check right now. So Pistons were playing in New York. I kind of want to give this one to the Pistons. Playing so tonight, as in the first
Tonight's
game.
game.
I think I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
give it to the Pistons.
Okay.
But yeah, we can move on.
If everybody's healthy, I give home team for both Denver and New York. Denver for sure. Home team, 100%.
Y- Yeah, I'm going with Denver too tonight.
Milwaukee, Indiana, it's a toss up to me, and I could care less who wins the first match in their matchup. I think overall Milwaukee will win, but I don't care who wins the first game, because Milwaukee does play well when under pressure. So this first game is a toss up, and it's at Indiana. I I would be consistent and say, let's say, for these first 3 matchups, the home team wins. On from my perspective, Detroit, to your bias, I will say this: of these first 2 home games in New York, they have a better chance of winning the first one than the second one. So the pressure is on them. Let's put it that way. Uh,
Nice. But yeah, so for me, I
Minute,
also have Denver winning tonight, and yeah, so let's we do our Lakers Wolves.
yes. So Lakers Wolves. Uh, it's a nice matchup. Lakers have been playing super well. Presuming health, I have the Lakers winning. I don't think that the Minnesota has the strength of team that they had last year. and therefore I would be surprised if it's not 5 games. I accept it could go 6, but I think 5 games is a more likely outcome. With Minnesota, if they're winning one, they they could actually split first both rounds. First the first 2 games and the first 2 games in Minnesota as well. So it goes 2-2 into game 5, into game 7, into game 6, into game 5, sorry. Overall, I think Lakers are more likely to seal the deal in game 5 than see a game 6. So yeah, my thought process is the Los Angeles to lose type deal, and this will be the least close of all today's games. Could even be a blowout, quite frankly. I don't think Minnesota's as strong, and I think even though I will keep saying that Edwards is perhaps my future of the league player, let's say, I don't think he's got enough supporting cast. I don't think his team is well coached enough to make it past LA with any real meaningful way. They can steal a game. At best they steal 2 games, but this is going to be a pretty lopsided series in my the way I look at it. Um, and Edwards would have to play out of his mind for 4 games, quite frankly, to for this to be even to be competitive. He would have to play out of his mind. Uh, to win, he would have to bring players along with him. And I don't think he is a bring players along with him type of player, which is a pretty big criticism for me to put on him because I gave that same criticism basically to Kobe Bryant, who I thought was arrogant and whatnot. And I give it to a few people who I generally speaking don't like. Edwards is an exception to my normal rule. And I think that I like him as a player. I think he's a fantastic offensive player. I think I love his attitude. I love his arrogance, if you could say that. But I don't think he has the team, the supporting cast, or the coach required for him to do well, either in this playoffs or against the Lakers. That's my viewpoint on this one. This is the series that I probably look forward to the least out of today's games, today's matchups, and going forward. This series is perhaps I would look forward to the least on the West, certainly. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, like on pretty much everything. And for me, actually, the main reason why I'm gonna be actually watching this series is just basically Luka's my favorite player, so I'm just gonna watch him play. And then also want to see how the Lakers continue to develop with this new team moving forward. Because yeah, they're completely different before the trade deadline when they acquired Luka Doncic. And I'm also seeing that like JJ Redick. Like I kind of see like, what people are saying that he's a little bit I don't know what the word is. Not crazy, but like, he's there's a specific word, like he's a kind of like a bizarre wizard or something when it comes to analyzing the game. And like I said, the defensive scheme, some of the things that I've seen, I was really impressed with what he can do. So now coming into the playoffs, I think it's going to be very interesting just for me to see what the Lakers are doing and to see how Luka is playing. And yeah, I also agree that, and I think he will have a dominant series himself, but I don't think the Wolves will be as dominant. And for some reason, I had them. Oh yeah, so I had the Lakers winning in 6, but that was only because I heard that the Timberwolves have been one of the best teams coming after the All-Star break, or I think it was after the trade deadline, and they have yeah, they've been going on a pretty amazing streak. So that's the only reason why I gave them 2 games. But I agree, I think it can go in 5. Um the Lakers, they're okay. So the way I see it is that Anthony Edwards plays with a lot of athleticism, and then also the Minnesota Timberwolves. Whereas the Lakers, I feel they're just man, the IQ is just kind of like off the charts. Both with Luka being one of the best playmakers we've ever seen, LeBron James. I mean, all you have to do is say his name, and we already know what he can do on the floor, on the open floor. But then now with Luka running the point at sometimes, he's going to be playing a lot off the ball, which he's very dangerous in doing. And then also I'm confident that the role players, the corner three guys, Finney Smith, Gabe Vincent, they're I think they're pretty consistent in hitting their shots. Like we talked about as well before, Rui Hachimura, for me, I just see continuous growth, and he is Swiss knife on the basketball court. And then Reeves is gonna get his points, and also another reason why I think Anthony Edwards is going to have a dominant series and score maybe a lot of points is because they're going to try and switch a lot of times when Reeves is playing, because Reeves is a real liability on the defensive end, and I think they're going to want to attack him as much as possible.
Yeah, so this is where I said coaching is going to be quite key and important for them. There are things that Minnesota can exploit if their coaching is up to the job and if their players are willing to follow the template. I think it takes a little bit of both, right? Because you might have in my estimation, I think that some of the players might not be willing to follow the templates of the coaching, but on the other hand, I'm not so confident in the coaching to be aware that there are certain strategies that you can employ to defeat the Lakers. And for instance, exploiting their weaker defenders, that is a key strategy, and you need to continuously force the issue there. On the other side of the ball, like Minnesota needs to not let Anthony Edwards continue to shoot so many threes. Um, I think I've said this before about other players. Wemby is one person that comes to mind. In Wemby's case, I said basically him shooting 9 threes a match doesn't make sense because he would have to be making more than three. Not three is certainly not enough. You need to be making at least three and a half of those shots per game to make that even worth it. And consistently, you can't have days when you're shooting 2 out of 9 or 3 out of 9, let's say. You have to be making more than three, closer to three and a half or four or better of those shots to make it worthwhile for San Antonio. And I'll say the same thing for Minnesota. Anthony Edwards cannot be shooting 6, 7, 8 threes a game and making two. He's a slasher, he's a mid range shooter, and he's very good at those two things. Take advantage because there are not a lot of players in the league that match up well with you. I don't think you're a confident ball handler. However, I think you are serviceable. You're a serviceable ball handler. I think make smart, efficient moves to the basket, pass the ball when needed, when you see other players have exploitable matchups. And yeah, play to your strengths. You can certainly beat one or two people off the dribble, but if there are two people defending you at any given time, give up the ball because it's only one or two passes away from a easy shot attempt. It's not an easy basket, an easy shot attempt. Randall needs not to play with the ball in his hands all the time. Like whenever he's got the ball, he's got to be able to make a decision. You get 3 dribbles maximum, then you have to make a decision, pass or shoot. Do not be holding the ball and using up shot clock time. Don't be passing up the ball with 3 seconds to go on the shot clock because you've just created a turnover and you've passed it to avoid the turnover in your name. These things are nightmares to watch if you are a fan of a team, and they are things that are very visible, and I've seen them time and time again on the court. Uh, be very careful on how you use pace in these matchups with LA in particular. If you're going to be a fast running team, be mindful that LA can play fast as well. They have the capability, the players, and the coaching where they can play many different styles of play: fast, slow, 3 point, or mid range. They have way too many talented, explosive off players on offense, and they're long and they're strong on defense. Uh, Gabe Vincent can play very well in postseason. He's demonstrated he has the ability. And I think that in this environment, those bench players are going to thrive based on the examples set by Luca and LeBron, and it's in their best interest to start listening and watching how those players approach the game in terms of prep, in terms of rest, in terms of practice, etc. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, and that's one of the things that like I'm actually going to be really looking out for in tonight's game. Anthony Edwards, I agree. Like the 3-point shot, and the thing is it's also the way he takes them and the timing that he takes them, that just from what I've seen, the few games that I've seen, early in the game, that type of thing. It doesn't seem as if he's using it as a threat to be like, okay, yeah, because like, okay, maybe he'll hit them early in the game, and maybe the defense will defend him closer on the 3-point line, therefore opening the lane. He'll use his athleticism and speed to go through. But I haven't actually quite seen that in the games that they've been playing. Like he just keeps on taking these shots. But like I'm interested to see like now how they will manage that. Like if he really does want to take as many shots, well, are they going to use it to an advantage where like, they can maybe fake out the defense when depending on how they respond to the 3-point shooting. And then also what I'm interested to see is how Anthony Edwards will respond to any blitzes, and if the Lakers will do any blitzes, especially as soon as they come into the court, like basically if it's near the half court, right? Because the ones that I did see even from last year against the Mavericks, when they did that, that's especially when he got into trouble, right? It's not the blitzing or double team. I haven't seen too much of that, like, especially in the pick and roll. Which another point, like I wanted to bring up was how is Gobert and Ant-Man gonna play on the offensive end? You'd want to think that like Gobert would be much more involved, on the offensive end in terms of setting picks or, feeding off of Ant when he drives into the key, that sort of thing. And what you talk about Randall, yeah, we've said this many times, is that like the ball does stop with him, and or he takes too long, 2 to 3 seconds too long with his one-on-ones. And then if so, for instance, like if the Lakers were to either defend him really well or maybe double him on the post up or something, now he's giving off the ball when there's only a few seconds left in the shot clock. Most of the time, or like and when if that goes to Ant-Man, right, and he takes a tough shot or like a shot at the end of the shot clock that's not in his rhythm. What do they call it, just when you have to take the shot because the clock is going down? Will that, if that does happen, will that offset Ant-Man's play? So when players do that, like, and I've seen Randall do it, unfortunately, like it actually does more than create a turnover for them. It kind of disrupts like the flow of the team in a sense. So yeah, no, I agree with you 100% on all the points you raised. I think they're concerns for the Wolves. So we'll have to see as well. Well, I mean, this will come, obviously after game one, but yeah, the coaching of the Wolves. But yeah, those are the things I'm going to be watching out when I check out game one.
Yeah, it's a there are a lot of things that frustrate me, I think. This whole Rudy Gobert offensive thing, like he can't be. I like him coming off the bench. I don't like him starting. I think he's not impactful enough on the offense to warrant him starting a game. I think you can find solutions through your other centers to to create a balance in terms of thing. Even if you say starting Nasri's at the center, and with Julius Randle at power forward, you can make it work. You can find ways um to make it work. But I think Rudy is too deficient offensively to be part of your starting five in a playoff scenario. I understand that you think his defense is elite or whatever else. It's really not. He's not contributing in the way that you will need to have success in the playoffs, period. Whether it's this series or any other. You need someone, you can't have four people playing against five defenders, quite frankly. And whenever he's on the floor, I keep thinking to myself, you're playing a four-man game and it's not, it doesn't look good. You have the talent offensively to bail you out on occasion, but not consistently. So for me, he's not a starting center in the league, if you ask me, for that one reason alone.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say he's elite, but like, you can use him well. And yeah, no, I think what I meant by the way they use him is that he's 7'1", right? He's a big body. And so whether he comes off the bench or not, and I think that's actually against the Lakers, I'd actually rather see that. I'd rather see, Nas Reed starting at center and then Rudy coming off the bench to match up with Jackson Hayes maybe, or like, if the Lakers go small, then, you can use him, in just different offensive schematics. It's like what I meant was that like I think that he can bring some value to one or two offensive plays, and maybe he's not talented enough to be used in that way, but like yeah, I just think that you can use him much more effectively on the offensive end.
I just don't think he has the capability to be used on the offensive end or to be planned around because he has one choice in a pick and roll, and that's a duck in, and that can be defended against. He's not a shooter. He cannot shoot. 15 to 20 feet away from the basket, he's unreliable at best. So he's not a threat.
Can he grab offensive rebounds?
He can, however, the Lakers have enough size. They have enough size that he his 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 rebounding is also suspect for the size that he is. His rebounding, based on his strength alone, is suspect. I keep going into more and more in the last 5 seasons, I'd say. I look at the size, the height of players relative to their rebounding output, and I think to myself, what happened? What happened? When has being a 7 footer not guaranteed you at least 8 to 12 rebounds in the history of the league? There's no chance that you would be getting consistent minutes if you cannot demonstrate the ability to have at least eight rebounds a game as a 7 footer. And in his case, in Rudy's case, I see even though he might average his 10, even if he might average his 10 rebounds a game, and I'm just going to look up his stats quickly if I can.
Yeah, and so yeah, the thing, yeah, I do agree. He doesn't have the best hands, but I think the I was thinking maybe like on tip-ins or something, or even as a lob threat. But yeah, no, that's true. He doesn't have the best hands, but I think there's still some way that like either he can be like a lob threat, or he can crash the offensive boards with like tip-ins or something like that. And he does tap he does do the offensive tap out, so that could be something.
But those count as rebounds, huh? Control taps are rebounds.
Yeah, I don't know if they consider this as offensive rebounds, but I mean it
Yeah,
still
control
gives
taps
still
are.
gives another possession.
So Rudy Gobert is ninth in the league in rebounds per game, yeah? At just under 11 rebounds a game. However, I can go back to games where he doesn't get 10, you know? I see it too often. He's a he's a 7'1" player, and I mean he's very lucky. He's ninth in reboundings overall, but I just don't see him. Like I said, control taps are counted as rebounds. They go towards the statistic, whether they're offensive, whether they're defensive. I don't know what it is because I certainly haven't, in watching his games, felt that he had a meaningful rebounding game or a meaningful contribution game. His plus minus is actually 4.5, which is which isn't bad. It's actually damn good, I think. But among, I just don't think he scores enough. I just don't think he makes, yeah, 12 points a game as a 7'1" player. To me, it's a little bit laughable. I don't see it. You should have a focus around your 7 foot players. You should be able to consistently rely on your 7 foot players being able to give you 10 to 12 is the bare minimum on the scoring end of things. Yes, I think he can help defensively, but I wouldn't rely on it. I think it's a personal pet peeve more than anything, so I won't thing on it too harp on it too much. Uh, and in fact, I just generally speaking, I want better for Anthony Edwards, and that's part of the reason why I think my whole mood when it comes to that team currently constructed is not so bright. and light. I think Anthony Edwards needs to be with a better team or with better talent around him, both from a coaching perspective as well as from just general players. And I hate to throw the coaching thing into the mix, but there were things that I've seen over the last couple of years that can be fixed. And I don't think the team construction in terms of the players. I think that plays a lot into it. Actually, let me put it differently. Bringing Rudy Gobert into that team at all would never have done. Choosing to have Randall over Towns would never have been done. So I don't know. Maybe it's a GM thing rather than a coaching thing in terms of the GM is supposed to bring the players to the table. And if the GM doesn't realize the talent that you have and how to build around your talent, then maybe it's the time for the GM to go. And maybe I've overstated the coaching influence in a negative light when it's really to do with the talent that's around the players or the changes that have been made to the lineups, etc. It's just, as a fan, I want to see more of Anthony Edwards. And I don't think that he has the players around him. Certainly, I don't think he has the players around him. And in the absence of the players, the strength of coaching means so much more.
Yeah, the thing is for me, like I was on the hype train of the Wolves last year. And after they did their off-season moves, I didn't really understand some of them. And then yeah, having watched him play, like I had him, coming in, maybe even being an MVP candidate. But I think he's just too young. I'm not liking the way the team is constructed. So like I don't really follow the Wolves game, but like for this series, I'll just see like, what he's gonna do. But I think right now he's too young. I'm gonna maybe follow more so either the Wolves or Anthony Edwards in maybe 3 to 4 years or something like that. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. So not really that deep for the Wolves, unfortunately.
Yeah, I sort of wanted the Wolves to be better. I wanted the Wolves to have like competitive games, competitive things where I'm really wanting to watch them. But I just keep finding myself every time I do watch them, this year in particular, it's like they've taken such a significant step backwards that I just don't actually enjoy watching their matches anymore. Uh, and I think it's a personnel, I think it's a GM, and to a lesser extent, I think it's the coaching. And I think I went into the season thinking to myself, oh, Anthony Edwards is about to have a breakout year. He's now spent a summer surrounded by the best talent in the league. Um, looking at work, work ethic, practice habits, stuff like that. And I looked for him to have that sort of breakout year, and I don't think he's had it. I think he's regressed, and I think that he's got a lot to prove to me, I think, in these playoffs as an individual performer, as an individual player. But I understand where some of it is not on his shoulders. So I agree with you. I look forward to seeing what he can produce in the coming years because he's still very young, and there's a lot more upside for him going forward than there are for a few other people. And I do really want to see his growth and his movement and how things go for him going forward. If not with the Wolves, with someone else. So I think the Timberwolves are on the clock, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's yeah, we're on point with that. And I think having now thought about it, yeah, let me go back to the Lakers in five. Not confident, and yeah, I just don't feel anything with the Wolves. So let me say Lakers in five. Should we or should we say a sweep?
I don't. You see, Edwards can give you a game against most
Yeah,
teams. I think
yeah,
Edwards on his
he'll
own can give you a game.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is going back to what I said. He's got a lot to show me in this series, in this playoffs, in this postseason. Um, but I have more hope for him in the future than I do for current um current space. So from
Yes.
that end of things, I think I'm happy to just I'll follow the games. I'm not really watching them very close, but I'll follow the games, and if something happens, certainly I'll watch the whole game, etc. But I think I'm gonna basically be paying lip service to this particular matchup because I don't have a lot of hope for the Timberwolves team in this matchup. And it's probably more of a matchup thing than it is anything. I also don't think in this playoffs, in this as currently constructed, they were giving themselves a lot of hope. So that's it. If okay with you, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just quickly move on to predictions. We can start in the East, and then go West. As I said, I haven't watched yesterday's matches at all. I do not know who Cleveland or Oklahoma City are facing. So I'm going to go based on who I know is facing who, for my current round playoffs. In both cases, in either case, I think both Cleveland and Oklahoma go through this first round um, relatively unscathed in terms of I don't think either of those matchups will go very long. So whether or not Cleveland is playing Miami or Chicago, I don't think that that is a long series to go forward to. Okay, so as I said, Cleveland beats Miami or Chicago regardless. Boston beats who's Boston playing? Boston is playing Orlando. Boston beats Orlando. A little bit of a longer series, but worth watching for sure. I said already New York beats Detroit, and I said Milwaukee beats Indiana. Okay, so those are my teams. That said, the next round would then be is it?
So wait, so you're gonna do the whole East first and then the whole West,
Yeah.
or by round?
No, I'm doing the whole East first, and then I'll do the whole West. So I'm just looking at the next bracket quickly.
Because
How do?
the way I did mine was just like, East round one, round two, which I guess is the semis, right? And then it would be East finals, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Round two
Yeah.
semis,
Because I actually did
conference
mine
semis.
on, yeah, without the bracket. I just like tapped it in.
Good.
Okay, so it would be, so you're in your,
Okay, I can
you've
do
done
it
round
based
one.
on
Yeah,
previous. I can do it based on previous brackets. So I
yeah.
presume it's the same sort of thing.
So
So I
like
have a bracket in front of me.
so you have
I have a
like
bracket in front of
the,
me.
oh, okay, cool.
So basically, in the East, it's 1-8, 4-5, and 1-8 beats the winner of the 4-5 season series. So the 4-5 series is
So you had the Bucks, right?
yeah. So I had the Bucks. So yeah. So it's Bucks versus Cleveland.
Yeah.
If Bucks beat Cleveland 5 games max if healthy. Presumed healthy. 6 games max, but more likely 5 games. Okay. And then of course you have Boston playing New York in my matchup. So bloody hell. So Boston beats New York in that matchup. Probably the same exact scenario where I said more likely 5 games, but I could see it going six. Um, Boston versus New York. Then I have, of course, then I have in the East Conference Finals, I have Milwaukee playing Boston. And if healthy, 6 game series, I would like it to be Milwaukee, but I could see it to be Boston. That is my Eastern Conference breakdown. Now, the Western Conference, again, 1-8 versus 4-5. So OKC versus whoever that is. OKC beats Sacramento Kings hands down. OKC has a tougher time against Dallas. Uh, but in both, just logically, I'm going to say it is going to be OKC. And then my 4-5 matchup, Denver,
Oh,
LA. I
wait,
said it was.
hold on 2 seconds. The last night's game was the Mavs and the
I did
Grizzlies.
watch it. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
Mavs and Grizzlies.
Kings,
Oh,
King.
sorry, my bad. Sorry. Kings are out. I'm sorry. Uh, ooh, that's a and that's a telling. You just told me that the Grizzlies won, by the way, by doing that. You just told me that the Grizzlies won.
Oh shit, wait, what did I say?
First, you told me Kings are out, but it was against the Grizzlies. Like you said that so strongly. So in a way, you just told me that the Grizzlies won. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do it both ways anyway. That's a harder matchup on both ends. I think both Grizzlies and the Mavericks could beat OKC. However, I think it's if it's Grizzlies, it's a higher likelihood that they beat OKC. But based on strength of record alone, let's say that OKC wins their first round matchup. So that I don't think that um I think I'm going on record and saying I think Grizzlies could beat OKC. Uh, am I saying that? That's a very strong take. Anyhow, I think OKC will win its first round matchup final. Houston versus Golden State. Nice long matchup. I think Golden State takes that one if they're playing the way they've been playing. So it'll be a nice 6-7 game series, and I take Golden State in that matchup. Uh, 3-6 Minnesota, LA. We've already gone through this. LA all the way. 4-5 Denver, LA. 6-7 game series. I think Denver has this one, but I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not mad either way. I'm going to go with Denver on that series. Is that all the series? Yes, it is. So then it would be Oklahoma City versus Denver or LA. I think regardless, it's either Denver or LA that goes to the Western Conference Finals. Regardless, uh, that's in my book. Now on the other side of that, we have Lakers and Golden State. That's going to be close. Oh, that's going to be close. I would like it to be Golden State, but if Los Angeles remains healthy, this is my only caveat. If and only if Los Angeles remains healthy, I think Los Angeles will go to the final. If they're even a little bit compromised, then it will be Golden State. That is my final Western Conference take. So in the West, I have a healthy Los Angeles versus either Denver or LA Clippers. Or if Los Angeles is even a little bit compromised, it will be Golden State in the West versus Denver or LA. No, my only consideration now is really in this first round who wins, Denver or LA Clippers, because they automatically, as I've said already, will go to the finals. Again, if fully healthy, not compromised, I'll give you the LA Clippers. If fully healthy and not compromised, I'll give you the LA Clippers because of Kawhi Leonard, and only because of Kawhi Leonard. But in the slightest bit, otherwise, it's going to be Denver, and that's my final take. So Denver versus a healthy LA, or even a little bit compromised Golden State is my Western Conference Finals. That's my final take. And then if those things said, what did I have? Milwaukee versus who in the East? Milwaukee versus
In
Boston in the East. Uh, let's okay, realistically, it's probably going to be Boston versus an LA team, but I would like it to be Milwaukee versus I would like it to be Milwaukee versus the Clippers. I would like that. However, I think it'll probably be Milwaukee versus Denver. Health, health, health. If health holds up, you have a. Are you in a position to give me your things now, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you- your path is because when you're talking about your path, I'm like, oh man, that's kind of like exactly what I have too, or like that's what I'd want. So like starting with the East, I have the Cavs versus TBD. Cavs in four. I think that's going to be a sweep. Then we have Pacers Bucks. Yeah, as we mentioned before, I have the Bucks in seven, and then Knicks Pistons. I have the Pistons in six. Celtics Magic. I have another sweep there. Celtics defeating the Magic. And then if we go to round two, I have the Cavs and the Bucks. This one's going to be interesting, but I think the Cavs are going to take it out in six. There's something whenever I watch the Cavs play, especially Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, there's something in their eye, especially with Donovan Mitchell. Something is there about, like, I think he's really hungry, and I think he's gonna take them over the Bucks. And then yeah, like I said, I do have the Pistons defeating the Knicks going on to the second round where they'll face the Celtics, and I think that one the Celtics are gonna take it in five. Um, I think just the matchups are just too favored for the Celtics, and the way the Celtics are playing, you know, it's like it's something I haven't seen it in a long time. And the thing too is that I don't know exactly what they're gonna do in the first round with Jaylen Brown. I think they said that he is actually gonna sit some games. So oh yeah, and then we had the when we were talking about it in the previous episode, you said you had like concerns because it was, I think, the knee injury, and I think I kind of mentioned that like it might be more so that he's hurt. And yeah, it has come out that I think it is a slight injury as well. So that's something to be concerned with, I think, in the first round. And I think I'd want to see Celtics rest him, but and then come back in the second round. And if he does come back, I think the Celtics do beat the Pistons in five games. And so we'd have an Eastern Conference Finals of the Cavaliers and the Celtics. And that one, I do have the Celtics in six, mainly because of, yeah, it's just the play of the Celtics. To me, any matchup they have against any team in the NBA, I'd always give them the advantage. And then now having this whole throughout the season, people kind of doubting Jason Tatum or whatever. It was just rumors and what's this thing called? They're just creating fires where they don't exist because, from the things I've been hearing, like, everybody considers Tatum at the top, but like maybe he has a chip on his shoulder and he wants to go past that. So I think that extra motivation, the Celtics are going to win in six and go to the NBA Finals. Um, and then in the West, Thunder versus TBD. That one I have the Thunder in six. And then we talked about the Nuggets and the Clippers. I do have the Clippers in five. Yeah, just uh, as we had discussed before. And then Lakers, Wolves, Lakers in six. Yes, Rockets, Warriors. I actually have the Rockets in five. I Yeah, we can go really deep with that one, but I do have the Rockets in five. I think many people are saying, or at least Rockets fans are saying, Rockets in six. But I think they want to just be done with the Warriors. There's actually like a history about it. I didn't really know, but apparently they this is they call it like exercising the demons or something. So I think they just want to close the chapter on that and move on. And I've been hearing there's extra motivations for what they want to do. I think you compared them to, or I think somebody was comparing them to another young team coming into the playoffs and everything. But when we look at a new young team coming to the playoffs, usually it's because they kind of have maybe a breakout season or something like that, and then either their youth or something, they don't have enough playoff experience. But I think with Ime Udoka, Fred VanVleet, Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks, I think they have enough to have that playoff experience, and they are hungry. Ime Udoka, I didn't know he was this hungry to defeat the Warriors. So that's why I have the Rockets in five. And so if we go to the second round, like you said, like, whichever team comes down through this path, they're gonna go to the Western Finals. I don't know. Well, I think the thing why, so I have the Thunder with the Thunder and the Clippers. I have the Clippers in six, and I think one of the reasons why too is that, like, if we were to compare, let's say the experience of the Rockets team and coaches versus the Thunder team and coaches, you will find more experience with the Rockets. Like I said, Ime Udoka went to the championship. Fred VanVleet won a championship. And then two is that oh, what was the thought I had right now? Oh, yes. When it comes to experience in the playoffs, remember that the Thunder last season, last playoffs, they ran through the Pelicans team. I think that was, I don't know if that was proper playoff experience. And then they got defeated by the Mavs in six. Again, there, maybe just a little bit, but perhaps not enough. And maybe that's why we don't, many people, or at least us, we have Because a lot of people have the Thunder going to the finals, but yeah, like I'm with you. I think this is the road to the finals. So Clippers in six, and then the Lakers and the Rockets, and that one was a little bit difficult. At the end, I did come up with Lakers in seven, but I think Rockets can pull it off. Now I'm thinking about, home court advantage, that type of thing, the different games that I saw between them, with the new Lakers and this and with the Rocket squad now, playing in this, because so one of the main um uh offenses with the Rockets, and we can go into this tomorrow. We can go a little bit deeper into this. They're playing a double big, which is just basically a traditional power forward and center, and that's really effective, especially in on the offensive end in terms of Steven Adams getting offensive rebounds, which is doing at I think the best rate in league history. And the thing with the Lakers, they do have like different defensive schemes that I've seen them throw towards the Rockets, and yeah. So I think actually for me it can go either way. But right now, I do have the Lakers in seven, just basically because I'm thinking, man, LeBron, Luka, these are two, oh, who would go against them, type of thing. And then JJ Redick with his coaching, I think he's gonna come up with things perhaps we've never seen before. So I do have the Lakers going to the Western Conference Finals against the Clippers, and initially here I do have the Clippers defeating the Lakers in seven games, mainly because of that starting five, the really powerful starting five. The Clippers, they're also a new team, and I think they have still some things to grow and learn, which I can see they're on the trajectory of going through. And then also we talk about the coaching. You have Ty Lue, and then now you have also Jeff Van Gundy on the bench as the defensive coordinator. But I think he has also some he brings more than just defense. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy is a legendary coach, so I think and I've even seen at some times where in huddles, either if it's at the end of the game or a quarter or something, Ty Lue actually allows Jeff Van Gundy to take the reins. So with those two brilliant head coaches and that starting five of the Clippers, I have them going against the Celtics in the NBA Finals, and I think finally we're gonna get an NBA Finals where it's gonna be a 7-game series.
That's interesting. A 7 game series. Per uh, we're gonna have to try and work out a way to 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 watch the games together because clearly for me, I think your breakdown is gonna be fun to watch. I'm just gonna enjoy just going through these games and stuff. So we need to try and watch a game together at some point. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, we do, we do. Yeah,
me,
so wait, can we, because I gotta, yeah, I kind of gotta head out. Um,
me
but
stuff. All right. No, superb shot again. All the same. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
love it. Yeah, man, I'm super excited. Like, finally the playoffs are here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Warm weather, basketball. Everything's coming together really well.
Yeah, I agree. Cool, cool.
All
Hey,
right.
man, you enjoy the day?
We'll catch up again tomorrow. Yeah. Take
Yeah.
care. Have a good one. We'll catch up later tonight, Dodge.
Oh, yeah. Tonight, yeah, and then, yeah, we'll see you for tomorrow as well.
For sure. For sure.
Cool, cool.
All right. Talk to you later, man. Ciao.
All right, you too. Cheers. Peace.